He's with us for the rest of the hour. We are live on Black Friday, the 27th day of November 2009. His TV show premieres with huge build-up. Coming up this Wednesday evening, December 3rd, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. Governor Jesse Ventura joins us live today. Governor, you are back hosting a WWE Raw and promoting the new TV show. This is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, Alex. We did that Monday from Hershey, Pennsylvania, and for me, it was I really put myself in the mental mode. I thought, this is kind of a chance to turn back the hands of time and go out there and have fun and become who I used to be, of course, Jesse the Body Ventura. And so I really went into that mode that night, and because I didn't care. I'm not a governor anymore, so I don't represent a state, so I can go perform like I used to perform in the heyday of wrestling back then, and that's simply what I tried to do, and I tried to have fun, and so it was a great chance to turn back the hands of time a little bit and interact with some of the modern day guys today. And I'm amazed that there are so many sons of wrestlers who are wrestling now. It's become a generational thing, and actually Orton is a third generation. I remember seeing his grandfather wrestle.
Wow. Again, Governor Jesse Ventura joins us today in this exclusive interview before he starts the big media blitz next week. We were talking during the break, and you are really surprised that it's going to air, and it looks like it's going to air next Wednesday?
Well, I always had the gentleman's bet with my crew, Alex, when we started the project. I thought, I think we'll do all the episodes, and I think we'll complete our task, but I've always maintained that I believe at the 11th hour some high hand of whatever is going to come down from the heavens and with the power to extinguish the show and give some feeble reason why it's not going on the air, because I had that happen to me in my MSNBC show, where it got right up to the time that we created the show. We had it all ready to go. They were an intricate part of it every step of the way. And then all of a sudden, the week before we're supposed to go on 5 days a week, the head guy comes in and says, we're not putting this show on television. And it turned out, I learned through many people now, it was my opposition to the Iraq war, because I was one of the few people that was going to be very vocal and public and on TV opposing the invasion of Iraq. And I opposed it then, I oppose it today. I don't care what the results are from it. It was not the right thing to do, in my opinion. It was wrong. And I was not let on the air because of that opinion. If you think back, there was nobody out there speaking out against the Iraq war before the invasion took place. The only person that was Phil Donahue, and they yanked him off the air too. Phil was on MSNBC that time. He was their highest-rated show. And Alex, you and I both know networks don't pull their highest-rated shows.
Unless they're owned, NBC, partly by General Electric, one of the biggest defense contractors.
Well, not only that, but MSNBC stands for Microsoft. NBC.
Absolutely.
So, but that aside, I don't know who would do it there, but somebody clearly had a political agenda that was coming down from on high, that there wasn't going to be any speak out against this invasion of Iraq, that the alternate side was not going to be heard. And I don't care. People can be on both sides of that issue. They're entitled to be that way. But, Alex, we still needed a debate that never took place. There was never, ever a formal debate out there on whether we were going to invade Iraq or not. And, it was just, in my opinion, shoved down the throats of this country. And
do you think they approached you? Do you think they approached you knowing the war was coming up and they wanted to shut you up and put those golden handcuffs on you, knowing that your contract said you couldn't do any other media? No. You think that was a setup?
No, I really don't. I think that they thought because I was a former Navy SEAL that I would automatically be a hawk, that I would support any type of war effort because of my background. And they don't realize that some of the most reluctant people to go to war usually are the veterans who have been there. My father was that way. My father had 7 bronze battle stars from World War II, and he so vehemently opposed the Vietnam War. I used to fight with him when I'd come home from school in high school because I was being taught we had to stop the domino effect of communism, and my father said that's a bunch of crap. He said it's people over there making money, and he was right, I was wrong. You know, I was being taught different. But
you were telling me about your dad. You said he was in Germany, right? Blew up a bunch of tanks?
Oh, my dad was more than Germany. My dad was in the war before Normandy. He fought Rommel on the North African desert.
Wow.
Then he came back and was in on the invasion of Normandy. He had battle stars for North Africa, Normandy, Battle of the Bulge, Remagen Bridge, Anzio, and Berlin.
I know a lot of those veterans would never tell stories.
He fought all, Alex.
That's amazing. Hey, let's spend a few minutes on your dad. Did he ever tell you about any of the battles?
No. My father was very quiet about, like many veterans, you know, it's something they have that they keep inside them. And no, he didn't talk much at all. He only told funny stories. He would tell me funny stuff that would happen, like, well, I guess they're not all funny. He told me about the time that they had just taken Cologne, where the big cathedral was, and he said some hotshot general came in and wanted his picture taken on the steps of the cathedral so they could send it back home so it looked like he led the charge. And apparently they hadn't cleared the city quite enough, and some German sniper shot him right between the eyes when he was posing for the picture. He did tell me that story. Which from my father's perspective, he used to always say, he was an enlisted man, and he used to always say, always remember, he goes, Patton and those guys wouldn't come in until a mosquito couldn't bite them. So he would say that to me, that they get all the credit for winning the war, but he said it's the infantry man on the ground who truly wins it. It's just that the generals and that stuff generally take the credit for it. That was always my father's viewpoint on the situation. And I tend to believe him. You know, I think he's telling the truth that, you know, generals don't usually come in till, like my dad said, a mosquito couldn't bite him.
Well, I'm sure your father is proud of you, though, and was proud of you.
Yeah, I think so. I was proud of him, too, also. He was I will tell you this little story about him, Alex, that I didn't learn until after he passed away. He never drove a car, and I found that strange growing up, that I had a dad that didn't drive a car, and whenever I asked him, he just told me he didn't trust himself. And I accepted that. You know, I thought, well, someone that doesn't trust himself driving certainly shouldn't do it, because cars, as we all know, can be very dangerous things. And then I learned after, when my dad passed away from my mom, that that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was he was in the tank destroyers, and apparently many times he had to drive over bodies, and he would suffer flashbacks from that if he ever got behind the wheel. And so that's how he lived with it. He never drove. My father used to walk to work every day, and it was about 2.5 miles.
Wow, that's incredible. One time I was deer hunting with all these old World War II vets when I was a little kid, and I kept asking him to tell me stories. And one of them, Elmer Neville's, turned to me, and he was a tank destroyer in the Bulge. And he said, okay, kid, you want a story? And he said, this beautiful bombshell blonde came up. You know, I'll never forget her red lipstick, her blonde hair, looked like Marilyn Monroe, and said she wanted help, and then pulled out a pistol and tried to shoot us, and we cut her in half. There's your war story. So I guess that's why those guys don't like to tell those stories.
Probably, you know, you know, who knows? Well, you do, you know, they're just things that remain private, I think, for people like that. And the true hero doesn't brag about it. The true hero does his job. And, you know, and if you do your job, many times just in the course of doing your job is heroic. And things happen that make you a hero. But ultimately it's survival and doing your job.
So your dad was in some of the same...
That's it all gets down to, nothing more, nothing less.
So your dad was in some of the same battles, it sounds like, as Audie Murphy, then?
I have no idea. He was he was all over. And get this about my dad. Here's the other weird part. He found out he went in at age 36. The oldest you could be. He didn't get out till he was darn near 40 years old, and was an enlisted man at age 36. And then we found out 20 years after the war that he had the wrong birthday, and he was actually a year older than he thought he was. So technically, he would have never had to have gone. And I used to tease him about it because, years and years later, I go, geez, Dad, how does it feel to be a year older, and what happened to that year in your life? And imagine you'd have never had to gone to the war.
Amazing. Let's come back and talk about vaccines being recalled in the news, the H1N1. Let's talk about ClimateGate, because one of the episodes is exposing global warming and all the big new developments there, and a lot more with former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura. His huge TV show premieres next Wednesday on True TV. We need to make this a winner so another series gets picked up.